Failures are a normal part of a release pipeline, and when failures occur while executing a phase, CDD provides the optional on-failure phase that can be created along with any phase. So in our example, we have a task that runs some tests, which for this example we know will fail and trigger the on-failure phase. To access that phase, we can click the Show On-Failure flyout menu to open the on-failure phase. And if we edit this phase, we can see that it's only going to run the task for updated applications. Also notice that there are no options for running this phase. With other phases, you can choose whether the phase runs automatically, manually, or at a scheduled date and time. With on-failure phases, the run options are actually set in the on-task failure section of each task in the phase. And there you can choose to skip the task, wait for manual intervention, or automatically run the on-failure phase if one is found. And we set up our task to run the on-failure phase automatically if there's ever a failure. So to show how this works, we'll make a quick change to an application. Scan the repository. And now in CDD, we can see the phase is running. We can also see that the task running the adaptive test has failed, and the on-failure phase is now running automatically. So this phase is sending a message that there was a failure. Then it's going to redeploy the previous successful build so that there's no longer a failed build in this environment. And after that, there's a task that sends a message that the application has been redeployed. And we can see that the phase is now paused at a manual task waiting for input. So we'll click the flyout menu and select Done. Now we can see that build 2 was the build that was originally deployed in the phase, then it failed, so the on-failure phase then rolled back and redeployed build 1 because build 1 passed through the phase successfully. And the way this works is through the use of 2 tokens, and we're going to introduce those right now and talk about them in more detail later. So if we look at a comparison between the CI phase deployment task and the on-failure phase deployment task, we can see that there are 2 different tokens being used: Web Backend Last Successful Change and Web Backend Previous Successful Change. And these 2 tokens are used to make sure that the correct build is being promoted to the various phases. So what's happening at this point is when an application change comes in, the Web Backend Last Successful Change token is assigned the value of the build that just arrived in CDD. Meanwhile, the Web Backend Previous Successful Change retains the value of the previous build number that passed successfully through the phase. And what this does is it allows you to use the Previous Successful Change token in the on-failure phase to roll back to a build that's functioning properly. So in our example, build 1 had passed through successfully, so the Web Backend Previous Successful Change token was assigned build 1. Then build 2 came in, and the Web Backend Last Successful Change token was assigned the value of build 2. But because build 2 failed, the Web Backend Previous Successful Change value of build 1 was used to redeploy the application. And we'll discuss these 2 tokens in more detail, but for the time being, just understand that these tokens are used to make sure that the correct build is being deployed and promoted.